The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is a robot with countless irrelevant menu options. Which is why with USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable, all at the touch of a button. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit temptationstreats.com to learn more.
Good afternoon, guys, and wherever you are in the world, welcome to the podcast from Texas. I have Rion Westfall, and he has built 9 companies. And today's talk, he helps small, medium businesses grow their revenue, coaching them. He's also the creator of Own Your Revenue, which we'll talk about. And he's got extensive experience. He's a mechanical engineer turned serial entrepreneur. Really happy to have him on. Rion, welcome.
Absolutely, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And briefly introduce yourself and we will talk about, I'm excited to dive into the conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Talk about ourselves. How long do we have? No, my name is Rion Westfall. I live in North Texas. So got a family of 4. I got 4 kids and we have a lot of fun by trade. You're absolutely right. Mechanical engineering. Spent some time in Department of Defense. Went from there to actually EPCM, Engineering Procurement Construction Management. So I ended up working as business development for an international firm. And so I ended up going to 15 different countries. So I speak English and Spanish fluently. So that kind of opened up the whole world to me. So I've had a lot of experience, a lot of different ventures, joint ventures, private equity brands. So there's a lot of stuff we could talk about. But yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Yeah. And what I really love is we're going to talk about all these kind of paradigms. And when clients reach out to you to work with you, what are they struggling with or what are they trying to accomplish and to get them to pay you as for your services?
Great question. Great question. The probably the toughest challenge is scaling, right? So there's different ceiling levels that we hit as a business growth. And usually, if you think about how small and medium businesses get started, it's usually because there's an individual that had an expertise. They were really good at something and, hey, I want to do my own business now as opposed to working for somebody else. So they start a business and then all of a sudden they're inundated with everything else. You've got the legal, you've got the tax, you've got the HR, you've got just all the stuff that they actually end up hating for the most part, but they look at it and they grow a business, they get to 5, they get to 10, then 15, maybe 20 employees, and they're pulling their hair out and they're just wondering, how in the world can I handle 75 employees? I hate coming to work and every day at 20 and just dealing with all this. Or turnover. Churn is a real thing, especially with talent and things like that nowadays. So oftentimes, most of the struggle or the hard part is, how do I scale? How do I go from 1 million to 5 million, 5 million to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 50? How do I do that without selling my soul to the company? Right. And so really there's a methodology to actually doing that and executing it at the same time, being able to back off and work less in your company to be able to work more on your company.
Yeah. And we'll talk about working in versus on. I think it was Gary Keller. I think it was the E-Myth. And in your experience, what is one of the biggest fundamental problems missing in companies trying to scale?
Biggest fundamental problems is not being able to read the signs. So I'll give you an example. I was in my late 20s and I was hired by an international firm to be their VP of business development. Think about turning the keys over, right? To a young 20, 28, 29-year-old, whatever I was at that point. And this company had been around for 35 years, Chris. So 35 years, and here they are. They've got their third BD chief guy. He's getting ready to retire. They're holding on to him because they couldn't find somebody until they found me. And then on the way out, his comment to me was, good luck, you're not going to survive. That's it. That's all he said as he handed me a handwritten paper with 3 names on it and said, here, this is the work I've been doing. But that's when you talk about fundamental things, it's being able to recognize certain patterns in business. So from that company, yeah, not only did we survive, but I tripled the size of that company within the next 2 years. And this was a company that had an extremely long gestation time. So average time from proposal to award was about 13 months, just very long churn, but still we were able to do it. But I would say one of the biggest issues is being able to see and recognize certain patterns. So when I talk about those I've traveled in 15 different countries. That was part of my responsibility, was going in and auditing and evaluating facilities. And so as I would go in, I would see pattern after pattern. And when you can really come back and start pulling pattern recognition in together, think about AI. We love for whatever reason, we always love talking about AI. Me particularly, I don't know, but we love talking about AI as a society. And pattern recognition is a huge key to AI when you think about it, right? It's recognizing patterns, it's pulling down patterns, it's making it simpler for us. But this is the stuff that AI really can't do. So it's recognizing the patterns with your people, it's recognizing patterns within your own business. And that's what I would say is probably one of the fundamental reasons as to why there's that struggle to scaling.
Interesting. And so what is the difference what are the symptoms with business owners working in the business versus working on, and how should owners change their mindset so that they're working on versus working in the business?
Oh, I love that question, because every time I talk to the actual entrepreneur, the guy who started it, or the owner, that ownership team, there's that transition because they're working 80-hour weeks, they're working 100-hour weeks, and they're just tired of it. I've been there. Like I said, I've started 9 companies of my own, so I've done those 100+ hour weeks, week after week in, week out. And the best place to start, as far as where I come in, is we actually start on what I call the customer roadmap. It is one of the biggest tools, and we'll probably talk about this at the end of the show, but it's one of the biggest tools, and I'm writing about it in my book, is being able to understand the entire flow from A to Z. I've got 6 stops that I pull out, and along those 6 stops, every time I do this exercise, again, this was all born out of whiteboard and sticky notes. So, all these evaluations and things I've done, I did all this stuff on whiteboards. And so now I'm just bringing that all to non-whiteboard, right? And so as we go through this process, it's amazing to see how much is either not being done or is missing and lacking, where clients and customers are getting detoured, where they're getting lost. And in the same process, it allows us to also identify, well, who's responsible for that piece, right? Who's actually going to be taking care of the steps 1, 2, 3 within that piece, or within those destinations that we find. So really, that's one of the best places I have always found to start is, and again, this is after we've gone through the typical, hey, are we in the right niche? Do we have the right understanding as to what we're doing, who our ICP, our ideal client profile is, and are we actually in alignment with our values? Once we've done all that, we can get to the nitty gritty of things like the customer roadmap. But to answer your question, like, that spot right there has been gold for being, just to see patterns as to where, man, I'm spending all my time here. Why am I spending my time here? And one of the acronyms I use, I call it DDA: delegate, delete, and automate. Right? And repeat it over and over again. If you're a business owner and you want to work less time in your company to work more on your company, DDA: delegate, delete, automate.
Yeah, I love that. And the other question I have for you is, with artificial intelligence and talking about scaling, how do you help business owners grasp their head around artificial intelligence and avoid becoming obsolete, and helping them grow and scale their companies?
Oh, another great question. I think everybody, myself included, is fumbling with this one. I mean, is it beauty or is it the beast? We don't know what it is. And what's it going to be today versus tomorrow? I was actually on a phone call just earlier this week, and the guy he's like a nerd in the AI space. And so when he started speaking, I just thought he was speaking a foreign language. But that's how we see AI as we look at it. I don't know. And because we don't understand it, we naturally shy away from it. We don't want to use it. And so, yeah, you get these early adopters that are at that front end of the bell curve, and they're going after it. And because we have the internet and social media, we see all of this news about it and how awesome it is. But then the rest of us were like, okay, how do I use that? How do I pull it in? And one of the things, like I said, with the customer roadmap, once that is done the right way and it is completed, I have a 1.0, a 2.0, and a 3.0. And as you can imagine, it goes from macro down to micro. But as we work in with this, that's when we actually get to see, going back to that DDA, right? Delegate, delete, and automate. We can see the things. Hey, is this a repetitive task? If it's a repetitive task, one, do we need it? So should we delete it? Should we delegate it? Or should we automate it? And that AI aspect is really helping greatly with the automation. It just really is. I'm using several tools myself. I even had a phone call yesterday with the guy, and he's, yeah, we can take your avatar and we can make it speak your own language and it can send messages. And I'm just like, you mean a twin? And he says, yes, exactly, a digital twin. I'm like, how do I feel about that? I don't know. Is that good or is it bad? We look at AI almost as, should I embrace it? Should I not? But in reality, the best companies are going to be those that can look back, look at your customer roadmap, delegate, delete, automate, figure out which ones need to be automated, and then through a series of efforts can make the plans and the necessary steps to figure out, hey, what's the best automation and who should we go with? How should we do it? So it's really to be embraced because we get that FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. And AI is definitely one of those topics that generates a lot of FOMO.
This episode is brought to you by PetSmart. Stop by for Yappy Hour with your pet at PetSmart. Save $5 on walk-in grooming services like nail trims, ear cleaning, brushing, and more. No appointment needed every weekday from 2 to 6 p.m. And while you're there, Yappy Hour includes exclusive in-store deals like 25% off pet toys. Visit services.petsmart.com/grooming to learn more.
Switch to Verizon Business and get more from your internet without paying more for your internet. Get LTE Business Internet starting at $39 a month when paired with select business mobile plans. That's unlimited data, and with it, unlimited possibilities. Start saving today with Verizon Business, ranked #1 in small business internet customer satisfaction by J.D. Power. Starting price for 25 megabits per second LTE internet plan with smartphone plan savings, plus taxes, fees, and economic adjustment charge. Terms apply. For J.D. Power 2024 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
Yeah. We'll switch gears a little bit and talk about your works and how you help clients. You talk about revenue on repeat and how to grow your revenue, and you have a own your revenue program. So talk about that and how it's designed for small and mid-sized business owners.
Absolutely. My target, my ICP, my ideal client profile is that small business. They might have 5 people, they might have 20 people. Usually once I get up to about 150, 200, it starts tapping out to the corporate life. And at that point, they tend to not listen to small guys like me, right? But small businesses that either producing, so they might manufacture something, they're producing a product, as well as service providers. So SMBs that are providing a service, they might have teams, they might have individuals that run around in trucks and provide different services. I've got several clients that are in the financial industry. So there's a number of places. If you've got processes where you're providing a product, where you're maybe even using suppliers to supply yourself so that you can then either turn it into your product, to your customers, whether you're providing that service, those are the areas where the own your revenue process is designed out of. That's where it was born out of. Like I said, it was literally born out of giant whiteboards and hundreds of sticky notes. And I use that process. I'm actually in the process. Like I said, I'm writing my book, and I'm even automating that process, turning it into an app at the moment. But it's really built for SMBs. Hey, you're 5 people, you want to grow to 10. You're 10 people, you want to grow to 25 people, 25 people up to 50, 75, or 5 million to 10 million. You're really looking at it saying, how should we actually go about this growth to where I'm not just kicking myself and continuing to work those 100 hours a week. It's really a methodical process. It's a well thought out process. It's worked every single time. Right now, this year, heck, we're May 1st. Right now, all of the people who joined just in the last 3 months, or maybe 4 months now, right now, between all of them, we're averaging a 182% monthly increase. So really, the patterns are bringing forth a whole bunch of stuff, and companies are looking at it saying, I didn't know that. I didn't see it. I didn't recognize it. It was right there in front of me. Of course it was. That's what Own Your Revenue process is meant and designed to do. It's to help bring that out so that you can see those patterns and then act upon those.
Interesting. And along the same lines, a lot of what's your USP? Because you have this product, but you're a growth coach. And so how do you distinguish yourself from other coaches that help SMBs to grow? And what's your distinguishing factor?
One of the distinguishing factors, like I said, as a mechanical engineer, as a guy who's been in the field, I've led the construction management, I've operated the equipment, I've blown things up in missile defense. I've done, excuse me, I've done and executed those things in the field, so I know what it's like. I've shown up to audits and facilities where, heck, they only had 75 people, but they had a bank of 5,000 SOPs. How do you deal with that? And so I've been there and I've done that. One of my clients, they were telling me this. He says, I can find a ton of people at the beginning, which means I can find the people that want to help me get leads. I can find the people that want to help me market or get out and build my website and throw my ads out. He says, then I can find a bunch of people that at the end, they want to help me sell my company because they want to take a commission on it. But he said, what about the middle? That middle piece. He says, I want someone that can know how to roll up their sleeves, get dirty, get in the muck, address the hard questions, like really ask the hard questions. Chris, 2 months ago, I had a guy on, I had him in tears, not purposefully, but he was in tears. But at the same time, he was just so grateful that someone was asking him the hard questions. And I used the phrase, I said, if it's not strong enough to challenge you, it'll never have the power to change you. And so, when you say what differentiates me is the fact that I go into those weeds. I go into the middle of your company, not just the beginning, not just the end. Of course, we talk about that. We talk about you as an individual, but we go into the weeds, and those patterns are brought out of the weeds, and then you can use them over and over again. So whether you're 10 people, whether you're 40 people, whether you're 100 people, the process works the same. In fact, it even works better the more you get. But that would be a huge distinguishing factor.
Interesting. The other thing in your Own Your Revenue program is structuring your business for real change and emphasizing accountability. And you also talk about accounting for non-negotiables, niche, and values. So touch on that.
Yeah, at the very beginning, those are all aspects that those are foundational pieces, and you have to have your foundational pieces. I hate it when I run into an entrepreneur, an owner that doesn't like his job anymore. Well, you're the one that created the business. Yeah, but I just don't like it. I had a guy, a landscaper, 11 years in business, and he just says, I'm tired. I don't like this. I'm dealing with this and I'm dealing with this. I'm like, you're dealing with all the things that, again, we can solve that. But if those were solved, would you enjoy your business? He said, oh yeah, absolutely. I'd be back to designing and doing the things that I love doing. Okay, let's do that. And so when you have alignment with your niche, with your values, making sure that your non-negotiables are in place, that things like your customer roadmap are written out. I've been running a survey for the last 5 months, and the bulk, I think I'm about 20% of businesses actually have it written out. So nobody writes it down. Nobody takes the time. Of course, you're not going to be able to perfect it. You're not going to be able to recognize it if you don't even have it written down. So those aspects are absolutely foundational. And so that's why I always start there. But the business, you can't separate the owner from the business. Business was born from that owner, and you can't improve the business without improving the owner, or vice versa. So it's going to have a reciprocating effect on both. So you have to address those. You can't negate those.
Yeah. I think there was a really great quote is the number one choke point in any business is the owner. And so talk about how the highest altitude leaders, the most successful SMB leaders think differently.
High altitude thinkers. The way that you get there, I'm just going to use that imagery of high altitude. If you're hopping in a helicopter or whether you're climbing the mountain yourself, there's going to be processes. There's going to be steps that you have to take to get to high altitude. And if you don't have the helicopter, you're definitely not getting there by flying. And if you're not conditioned enough or know the route up a steep incline, you're definitely not going to get there. So most of the time, I have found that, again, the business was started because the individual knew and had a certain desire and a specialty about something. It's either they had that expertise or they're coming from the financial side and they're just highly invested into it from a money perspective, and they rely on the other people that have the expertise. But if you don't know and you don't have the processes to actually step into and climb that mountain to get to that altitude point, then you'll never, ever be able to look back and see, okay, this is what we should do. This is how we should act there. I've got, like I said, that customer roadmap is an extremely valuable tool. That feeds into another program I call Pep Slim. So it allows us to actually take all of the things that we find within our patterns of the customer roadmap and start putting them into those 7 different areas: the people, the equipment, the processes, the leadership, the inventory, the money, the strategy. We categorize all these, and then from there, the owner is able to see, wow, I didn't know I had this gap over here, or I didn't know we were over focused over here. So it's really a system that helps the mental playbook as much as the actual playbook for any owner in any business.
Yeah. How can people connect with you and reach out to you if they were inspired by listening or viewing this and work with you?
Absolutely. Right now, and I believe we may have a link available there on this, but right, 537bd.com. That's my website. So there's Calendly links, there's signups for my book. That's one of the things right now. Anybody that pre-registers for my book, they're going to get a free copy, digital copy when it comes out, as well as a free course. I put together a course specifically on this Roadmap 1.0. So they can reach me there, and as well as LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably the number one way, or just send me an email.
Excellent. I really enjoyed this conversation and really valuable nuggets. And thanks so much for coming on.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Chris. Thank you so much, sir.